Hey, Aaron.
What's up, Chuck?
Who's on the show today?
Viper.
The porn star from the 80s?
No, not that one. Not that Viper. I know what you're talking about. That's a great Viper. No, I'm talking about Viper. Viper. The Viper.
Viper?
You know Top Gun?
Maverick? Viper?
Yeah.
Iceman?
Yeah.
Goose?
Yeah.
Viper.
Viper loved the arrogance in Maverick. So,
Do you think he'll love the arrogance in asshole Aaron?
I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, yeah! Top Gun. Tom Skerritt.
He's going to be my wingman.
You can be his.
Okay. Welcome to Around the Rail.
Welcome to Around the Reel with your hosts, Aaron Carlson, Charles Lawson, and Samantha Hanna. Gucci gang.
Tom, you can do whatever the hell you want.
That's right.
Been an interesting day.
I bet it
Very
has.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, how you been doing, Tom? What's going on?
Man, I'm doing all right. I really can't complain about a thing, to tell you the truth.
I love that.
I mean, I don't see the point, that gets into a long conversation about what's right and wrong or bad or good, and I don't believe that. I'm at an age now where I say it's all what we had in our life and survived. And you younger guys are gonna get hip to that later on when we're, heading towards 90 or something like that. It's just a fast speed in the four-seated car drive, man.
No, I bet. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Tom Skerritt with us today on Around the Reel. So, Tom, welcome to our show.
Welcome to Around the Reel.
Hello, everybody.
Appreciate you spending time with us, my friend. They were actually my crew here. Sam is usually here, but our stepdaughter is going into labor right now. She's 21 years old and she's having her first child right now. So our other host isn't here tonight because she's with our daughter. So, which is cool because I don't want to see that happen anyway. So I'd rather talk with Tom Skerritt.
From a guy who was once in the room during that experience with their daughter,
Yeah.
You don't want to be there.
How many kids do you have?
Well, I have 5 kids and Chuck's got, how many you got?
4.
Yeah, you have 4.
3 grandchildren.
Yeah.
And the grandchildren and one of my daughters live with me.
Yes, sir.
5 and 5, and great granddaughter due at the end of the year.
Oh, right.
Wow.
See, so we're already caught up with you and we're half your age.
I know, right?
What's going on here, Tom?
I'll have a great granddaughter in 10 years, probably.
What the hell am I doing? Jeez. Aging too quick.
I'm still just moving on.
Yes,
Life is very largely about just keep moving.
Just keep moving.
It does keep, yeah.
Keep moving.
Yeah, man.
Because if you sit down for too long, you get sore.
Yeah, and you don't want to move.
Oh yeah, I don't do well, but I'm writing. Yeah, that's a sticker. That's Julie kind of gave me a little shake of the finger today about you're writing too much. I'm writing 2 things at once: a memoir and a thesis on loss of the imagination.
Loss of the imagination.
As a nation, we've lost it.
Okay, yeah.
You know what?
I ain't gonna argue.
No, me neither. Not on that one. It that does seem to lead me into a lot of things. Because I've been a huge fan of yours for a while since I was a kid. My dad and Chuck too. I know we've seen all your work.
We're not gonna fanboy on you. We promised.
No, because you know why?
We don't have to.
Because Tom Skerritt, he's just some guy. He's just a guy.
He's just a guy.
Yeah,
he's just a guy who's struggled with his computer just like we do.
You ever had hang a garage door with Tom Skerritt, Chuck? That's from Ted.
Yeah, well, it's good to see you guys. Good to have you too. I didn't know whether this is going to be a visual thing or whether this is going to be on air.
Oh yeah,
We aren't doing things live yet, but we are working our way that way for special occasions.
Correct.
But for now, yeah, we're just doing everything video and audio. So audio for the podcasts, video for our YouTube channels and for people to enjoy your lovely face.
Yes, our wonderful listeners out there
right.
who are a lot of filmmakers. And we're up here with you. Now, are you in Pacific Northwest still, Tom? Do you still live up here?
Yeah, I moved up here 30 years ago.
Okay.
It's people ask why, and I say, look out the window, man. You see that lake. You can maybe see an eagle fly.
Yeah.
We're on Lake Washington. We have a lot of trees around, a lot of foliage, thick with green and colors now, all being autumn. It's just
beautiful.
Yeah,
it really is. I was looking at that stuff today, driving.
Yep. And it's just sort of creative input always.
Yeah, it is. I'm fascinated by what you said about the inspiration thing, or the lack thereof nowadays. Imagination. Yes, sir. It seems that way to me too, because I'm a huge fan of earlier films. And when I say earlier, 70s, 80s. And when I grew up, I'm 48 years old, but I grew up seeing movies that you've been in. I mean, I got a Cheech and Chong shirt on right now. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, I didn't notice that.
I know. Yeah, he was Strawberry. Cheech and Chong. I'm talking to Strawberry right now. That's the greatest.
Play cool, man. Play cool.
I'm playing it cool.
I'm so proud.
But
I'm so proud you love me for that.
Oh, we don't need. We can talk an hour.
Yeah, so good.
We can talk an hour about all the love.
Yes, he blew the hell out of that bird. It's the funniest scene. I love it so much. Anyway, but the movies back then when I was growing up had a different feeling than they do now. They really do. They felt differently. And I'm curious, Tom, since you've been in this industry as long as you have you seen that difference in the shape of films? Now, we're going to talk about your movie, East of the Mountains, because I want to talk to you about that. Super bad. But what's your take on filmmaking right now? What are you seeing?
I don't know if we have the time for that, because it goes on. That's part of what the whole imagination thing that I'm concerned about, which goes back to the 80s when they first started taking them out of public schools in middle America. And they were welcoming the imagination of a 5-year-old when it first begins to emerge. It is that thing that separates us from other animals, basically. The one thing.
Yeah.
And watching all of this happen, watching these programs being taken out of school that long ago, and continuing to do so. They were called non-essentials throughout the 80s. And I was curious enough because I saw it too often in rural areas. And it was always about balancing a budget. Turns out it was the creative programs.
Yeah.
And more recently, they've talked about, and they have done so, to remove history and cursive writing, which is a very personal thing.
That's a big one. I can't believe they've done that.
Art creation.
Right.
And history is that thing that does inspire our imagination to wonder where we came from and all of this sort of thing. And I really have been concerned to watch the effects of that generation, which is, I think, what we're dealing with politically.
Yeah.
That we're talking about lots of imagination in the heart of America, where these rural community schools first started this operation with imagination, where basically enhancing and guiding the imagination. So it's a fearful, when you think about being a baby, suddenly you're aware of more things and becoming conscious of them that you don't have as a baby. Now you're becoming aware. So it's all pretty scary. Distance, depth of field, anything. A bird flying can really be a scary thing. But these classes always guided you. You can make something out of nothing and have the teacher pat you on the back and say, that's a nice effort. However, let's try it this way. They never would say right or wrong or bad or good.
Right.
It was always, can we be better?
Right.
Can we be better? Yes, we can, of course. But it begins at that time. They took those classes out for budget reasons. And I think we're dealing with it right now. The generation, that period is now angry, which is usually something that comes from fear. This is just a theory, but I was looking at it, and common sense dictates that everything begins with the seed. everything.
Yeah.
And you can't just plant it and let it come up by itself. It may pop up, but you got to water it. You have to nurture it. And that's what we are as human beings. And everything, when it comes a good time to put a right fertilizer in it, you got to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you're not going to get the bouquet.
No.
You're not going to get the apples, the fruit, all this sort of stuff. Becomes, you know what I'm saying?
I do, man.
That's
Yeah.
right. It goes
You
on
can,
for
yeah, you'll
hours.
just have a dried up ass flower. I mean, that's really
Or
what
you
we're
might
going.
have one crooked little pretty its own little flower, but it's only that one, and eventually it won't be there anymore.
Right.
So you got to do something to make sure you're nourishing everything. I mean, you're talking to two guys who totally agree with you. I mean, we're writers. We're also all the same things. We've also watched imagination disappear. I've watched art programs in school districts go from
Gone.
all the arts to maybe drawing, and now they're taking away music. I'm like, what in the hell are we doing here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's too late, but I hate to put it that way, but they got to get these little programs for these kids that seem non-essential. They really are essential to the ultimate realization of how I fell into this business, wanting to be a writer. But I felt to write for an actor, for example, I would have to feel what it was.
Mhm.
This whole creative process is when you feel, you can't explain it.
Yeah.
And it's something that a friend of mine years ago, Miles Davis, was telling me about Dizzy Gillespie. Was asked by some fan what jazz was.
Okay.
And he just said, well, man, if you don't know, I can't tell you.
No, you got to feel that.
Yeah.
This is really something you can't really explain, the acting or the writing or painting. I've done all of these things. And it just comes from an instinct. And where does this come from? It comes from the imagination. My God.
Yeah.
What we're fed by, like it or not, those things that create what if kind of question that you have about this, and what do you do it? How do you actually prove it to other people?
Mm-hmm.
We're living in it. That's proof. We have a country that's fighting itself. It's all the policies, the political parties are all pointing at each other.
Yeah.
That says you don't have the imagination to. Maybe the Republicans have more imagination than we do, because they're just throwing out stuff that's very uncool, but it may be intended to lead us in a direction that we don't necessarily want to go into, because I think it excludes.
Yeah. And I kind of get what you're saying, Tom, a lot, actually. The ideas are not flowing from one side as far as the other side goes. And that creativity is... It can be used for good things.
It can be if people want to try.
They have to be open to hearing others and seeing things. It's kind of like when we make a film, Chuck. We got a small production company. We make movies, Tom. Not many people have seen them, but we make them.
We might want to talk about that later.
We can talk about that as often as you like.
Anyway, and it surprises me in this day and age because of the way we can communicate to one another via the phones and shit, all that stuff. Everything's so immediate. Everything's so fast. And I always wondered, like, when you were in the prime and doing your thing back in the day and, being an alien and Top Gun in these big blockbuster movies, and, the reviews, the way people say things about film, and they criticize this art, these stories and whatnot. When I was a kid, if you didn't read the newspaper review from Skitz and Liebert or see him on Channel 9, you had no idea what people thought of a movie unless it was your friends. You had no clue.
Right.
I mean, that was it. But now everybody has something to say about this stuff. And in a way, I'm okay with it because at least they have a voice. They can be creative with the way they're doing it. But then it does give you that negativity for that creativity as well, because some people can say things that they're just being rude for no reason. Right. You know what I mean? So it's interesting to me that maybe this creativity and this imagination, do you think it still needs to have some restraints at all? Or can it go too far?
Creativity, that's the thing that comes from the imagination.
Mm-hmm.
It's that that impulse to look at things that you don't know, to look at things and take the risk of possibilities. To Nietzsche once said, if you survive, you're stronger, basically. You know, to go at something that's as long as it doesn't kill you or maim you,
Mm-hmm.
all you can do is learn. And people they seem to want to be win,
Right.
or hate losing. Either way, you learn something.
Exactly.
So how can you really be losing or winning if you've got something that's meaningful for you to take you another step further for another day? Because that's all we got is one day at a time.
Yeah.
And storytelling is what you started to miss. It used to be always good storytelling. I was in films, a lot of those films that were just good stories, and I wanted to do them because they were good stories.
Yeah.
I didn't think about the stardom thing is beside the point. It's just being a participant, as I always found out with Robert Altman when I was mentoring with him prior to MASH. He told me everything about around the business and what makes you work and why do we behave, how to look at things differently. So I'm stuck with Altman's philosophy about film.
Oh,
Basically.
good. Yeah.
And Hal Ashby as well.
Some great filmmakers you've got to work with. Unbelievable stuff.
I learned from them. I got all that in my head. I got all that stuff that Ridley did when he was walking around, setting lights and looking through the camera because he was the camera operator for that film. He's magnificent. He just knew I was trying to learn. He showed me like a little dog. He showed me little pies out there to eat. And I was just listening to him and watching depth of field he was teaching me about, and a variety of things that he was doing, the way he would light the rooms,
Mm-hmm.
the way he saw through the lens. So learning from guys like that creates a lot of humility. This whole thing about acting, God, to be able to make a living the way I have is something it rains on me all the time. Say, oh my God, nice, luscious, warm
I bet.
rainfall this is. Oh God.
See, you're giving me fucking goosebumps right now.
I know, right?
You
It's
are
like-
giving me fucking goosebumps.
I hope we give that to your listeners because we're here
Yes.
to give them themselves.
Yes, exactly. And that's what we've been doing for 78 episodes now. That's what we've been trying to do is to just get that keep them in the game. You know, don't lose your passion, your dream. Just just go. Just keep going no matter. And like you said, I love what you said, Tom. You know, even if something bad happens, you're still learning something from it. You know, that's a beautiful way to look at it. You're not losing. What are you losing? If you're
Right.
still traveling down that road, you're still taking steps. It's a beautiful thing.
Every day.
Every freaking day. Yeah, man. Oh, man, I didn't know it was going to get deep with Tom. I thought we were going to talk about, like, movies. I was going to talk about all kinds of stuff, like Dead Zone and cool movies, man.
No, then this is more fun.
It is more fun, and people need to hear it.
And that's one of those things too. One of the things we're doing with this show, that we're trying to do with this show, is reminding people they can be inspired, and that there's somebody here who's supporting what they're doing.
Yeah.
You might make your first independent film, student film, whatever you're doing, and it might be crap because we've all made crap.
Yep.
But don't stop. You know, I jump on all these message boards of everybody always talking. It's like, I don't have a camera. What should I do?
Mm-hmm.
Grab your freaking phone and go start recording.
Yeah.
Find like you said, find your depth of field. Find how to find a shot.
Frame a shot.
Yeah, frame a person. Just frame a stranger so you don't have to interfere with them. Just do something.
You know, that's a great point, Chuck. I mean, seriously, when I watched you watched it too. We watched your
watched
most
stuff.
recent film, East of the Mountains.
Yes.
Brilliant movie, buddy. You know, congratulations. I had a blast watching you in that movie. And yeah, man, you're a badass. You know that.
Yeah, you know what you did in the movie. And
yeah.
For those of you who haven't watched it yet, you need to.
It's fantastic. But you know what was beautiful about it? It gave me that feeling of those older movies. There was more said without saying it.
Yep. That's what I was thinking.
You know what I mean? Tom, I don't know. Obviously the story in East of the Mountains.
Less is more.
Yes, thank you. Yes. Yeah, I'm sitting with you in the room. I don't want to give away the movie too
Well,
much.
you sit in
but,
like the
you
hotel
know,
room.
in the hotel room.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right,
and,
right.
and you know, I feel what you're feeling, man. You know, that's what's so great about that movie. The isolation you had, you with your dog. I mean, all those scenes were so brilliant. They really were.
And look, there he is with a dog again.
Yeah, he's still with a dog. But he was talking, you know, you guys were talking about framing a shot, even with an iPhone. And I was sitting there watching some of the cinematography in that movie. And, you know, it felt like an indie movie, but at the same time, it's very high production value. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But the shots are framed, man. I mean, you got the mountain in the right spot. Here's Tom walking with his dog. You know, I mean, you see it all. And you can do that with an iPhone.
Yeah.
You can still get that shot. So these filmmakers have to stop. No more excuses for filmmakers. Just go make your movie. Just go make a movie so you can learn, like Tom says. Tom, tell him. Tell him, Tom.
There's a photo in every direction. Every photo in every direction. You just have to get rid of the stuff that doesn't work in the composition. Again, that really learned from Ridley Scott when we were doing Alien. I just watched how he framed and what they would look like, trying to figure out what they would look like.
Yeah.
We'd screen them, we'd run them back. So this is what I was trying to get. And sure enough, he got something that was less than more
Right.
each time. The subtlety of all of that, the less that you give them, the more they want you to say things, certain things. They want you to behave in a certain way, you viewers.
Right.
Which is just the psychology of theater
Mm-hmm.
and or any theater. I think it was Lawrence Olivier once asked you, when you reach a point where the audience expects you to cry, and therefore they would cry. How do you do that? Well, first of all, you're asking a creative how to talk creative. And he just said, don't, and they will cry for you.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's basically what you get out of those great stories.
Mm-hmm.
Not everything is there. What happened to them? We never know.
Right.
But they're not the main content. There's something that was left behind. And we all leave something behind in our lives. Something that we could have learned from when we were younger, that we denied ourselves, you know.
Yeah.
Something that we embrace having now in this life, just looking out the window.
Beautiful.
Seeing what I'm able to see, and be able to see it all, and to have hearing, and able to talk to you guys. Man, I don't take that for granted.
Neither did we. We were very excited about this conversation today.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. When I'm a kid, I would have never thought I'd be having a conversation with Tom Skerritt.
And it's
You never know.
right.
Yeah. It's beautiful. It's badass. I mean, that's how this can happen for everybody. I mean, here we are, a couple guys with our little production crew with Sam, and we're trying to make movies. And we started a podcast during COVID. That's what we did. So because we couldn't go on set,
So we
didn't
could
want to
stay
make
creative.
yes, and not make
and do
anybody
stuff.
sick. We were just riding it out. And here we are. We've got a pretty good show that's got a good following of people listening to us for inspiration. And
Okay, wait.
That's good.
I'm going to swoon for our listeners for a minute. Not
Oh,
only in this
swoon.
month, not only did we hit our 75 episode mark,
Mhm.
we hit that. We are now in the top 100 of
Podcast.
film interview podcasts.
Correct.
And we have Tom Skerritt on the show. So
Goddamn right.
I'm having a moment right now, and I'm going to bounce on the ball because that's what I do. Because I'm excited and I'm happy, and I don't want to get stiff. You know, I got to keep moving.
yeah, you keep moving. You're
Don't
right.
embarrass us now.
I know,
don't worry,
do it,
don't worry.
do it. Don't do it.
I embarrass myself all the time. Don't worry. You're not associated with it.
This film business is a whole new world anyway. You know, it's just not what it was prior to COVID, and actually it wasn't for a number of years because it took a lot of good storytelling out and just put in a lot of shock, shock and awe, and aggressive, hostile, which I really kind of got. Well, it more than kind of, it got to me.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to get out uplifting, enjoyable, meaningful content, the stories that you loved when you were a kid.
Right. No, there was a
We 100% agree with you.
yeah. There was a big balance of that when I was a kid growing up. And I know what you mean. Like if I wanted to see a scary movie, I had to have the balls to go and walk down that horror aisle at whatever video store I was in and grab one off the shelf shaking and try to read the back. I was scared out of my mind. But you know, when back in those days, you know, my dad let me we watched movies together, me and my dad, all the time.
Yeah.
You know, that's what we did. And there was no shame in the game. I remember my dad took me to see Alien when it came out. Now, when did that come out? 79? Is that when Alien came out? Was that 80? 81?
Around 80 somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere in there. Okay. So
I can't remember either. So
I'm 7 years old going to see Alien. And all my dad was saying, "Oh, I can't wait to see Yaphet Kotto in the movie." You know, that was Yaphet Kotto was my dad's dude. And then I remember my dad walking out, and he was like, "No, I was really pissed off when Dallas died." And I'm like, "Was Dallas? That was the captain?" He's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Yeah, him and Yaphet Kotto were my favorite in that movie." And I'm like, "Oh my god, my dad liked the white guy in the movie finally." I mean, that's how I felt, because my dad always liked the black guys all the time. But no.
You mentioned Yaphet. He was a friend of mine in the early 70s.
Yes. I remember in a lot of movies him. I watched them all the time. But yeah, I mean, my dad right now would be shitting his pants knowing that I'm talking to Tom Skerritt, who knew Yaphet Kotto.
Right.
That's fucking cool.
Yeah.
It's the best. But anyway, what I was getting at is that, you know, the stories that were back then, they definitely had a different feel, and they were creative, and I had to go to those shelves to get something really scary. But everything else I always watched had this a very moral story to it.
Morality.
Yeah, there was something in those older movies that it made you think. It made you feel good.
Well, even some of the older horror movies did the same thing. Be careful how you judge things.
True.
Bad things might happen.
True. It was just a different concept.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's so weird how things have evolved. And maybe that's why you're writing that story you're doing right now about the imagination, because something's changed. Tom.
It's the politics we really, excuse me, that we very seriously have to consider.
Yeah.
Where we're going. I don't know that a lot of the people who favor that one person understand what it is, what autocracy means.
Yeah.
I mean, basically their rights are taken away and they just have to do what the government tells them to do.
Mm-hmm.
We live in a country that never existed before, with a democracy is government that just wait. You got two weights here, and you got to try to. One is who's ever agreeing or disagreeing, given circumstances in the country, they rule for a while. 10 years. We could lose that altogether. If we don't like whoever is leading the country, we're stuck with it.
Yeah.
So that's potentially where we're going.
Mm-hmm.
All of the stuff the freedom we have to talk the way we are, all the freedom that doesn't exist anywhere else but here, and the way that we talk, the way each one of us are processing, and the language we use, and all of this is ours alone.
That's right.
In this world. And that, when you consider that, that's a hell of a big deal.
It is a big fucking deal. It really is. Yeah.
Just because he said you can use whatever language you want doesn't mean you have to start
I
swearing
cuss
at Tom.
on. I cuss on the shit. That's what I do. That's why my wife calls me an asshole. I don't care.
That's true.
But it is that way, and that cancel culture thing needs to stop. It needs to stop. It really does. Yeah, I mean, a stand-up comedian can't even make a joke anymore without getting in trouble,
Right.
and it's ridiculous.
That's why I'm doing them. I'm doing something. I'm doing them imagination. Whatever we can each do, rather than talk about it.
Right.
I can talk about it because we're talking about it.
Right.
But in the end, I got to write this stuff down. I got to get my whole life out, because it was a particularly interesting life, full of a lot of information that I got from some of the best, in this case, filmmakers,
mm-hmm.
and other people that just knew that I had an ear for something they had to say. And you put that in the stew, and you've got a damn good stew in the end. And it even tastes better next day.
Yeah, absolutely. I got so much you can't. There's so many things to talk about with Tom Skerritt, but I can only pick so many.
But wait.
But
he does say that could be another show. So we have an opening here for
That's good.
another show with Tom Skerritt.
That's true.
So let's just use this as a pressure point to make sure we hit things that we want to talk about more later, possibly. But yeah, there's a lot of things to talk about here.
There is. And I like what you're saying about getting your story out there and getting this out. Because last night I watched Val Kilmer's documentary on Amazon Prime.
I hear that's really good.
Yeah, I watched that. That's a rough watch. It's tough. It's a tough watch, but it makes you don't feel bad for Val, but you do, and at the same time you don't, because he's okay. He's okay, but his story is fucking amazing.
No, of course I haven't watched it. So I'm going to guess you feel sorry for the scenarios that he was faced with.
Well, we all have our challenges in life,
Sure.
but the way he's faced them and what he's done, it's kind of what you're talking about, Tom. You learn from it and you adapt. But there's things in that documentary that like hit me hard, and then now you are kind of just giving me the same vibe with what you're saying you're trying to write. I don't know where I'm going with this other than don't stop writing that stuff down. Please.
You're on the right road, and you got to write about your own life and all the stories that you just told me. All of that is what each one of us are, our conversations we have, the people we spend time with. I was always, my first love was music, for example. I love to sit here and listen to John Coltrane, Billie Holiday, and Bill Evans, piano player. I don't know if you know who.
I do.
His bass player, Scott LaFaro, was a very close friend. And all of this stuff. So I knew the musicians long ago. And how I ever got into the acting was simply because I didn't know how to play the violin or something. I always wanted to play, but we were in a poverty family, so we couldn't afford stuff like that. So, but you're exposed to it because we had a school system that exposed you to the concert. I mean, we're watching a rehearsal, symphony orchestra. I'm just shooting this out real quick. I see this old man, 25 kids are sitting there, and on Saturday morning, this old guy's coming out to do rehearsal for the concert that night. And he barely got out there, and he's all dressed in white. He's got his hair shooting in every direction. I'm wondering if this is a good idea for this poor gentleman to be put up in a podium where he can barely move. And he yells at him in China, the 75 members of the orchestra, and he raised his hands, a baton in one hand, and it was like it was being pulled up with this baton. Suddenly he just straightened out like this, and his arms came out like this, and he just came down with his arms, and he pulled a sound that just said, "There's more to my world than our world and the neighborhood, the little Colin neighborhood I grew up in." And from that seed and a few other things, that going to a museum and seeing Rodin's The Thinker and circling it out in front of the Detroit Institute of Art, which is a hugely great art museum.
Right.
And I'm circling this thing and I'm looking at it and saying, wow, I'm 7 or 8 years old. Naked guy sitting on a toilet without the sports section. Right? Frame of reference.
Yeah.
So that stayed with me. The value of that stayed with me. The irony and that kind of humor. That's who I am. Is that me sitting on the toilet with some guys walking by and saying, "Hey man, how you doing? You need a paper to read."
That's awesome.
Doing their way. It's every day there's art for us to see and feel. And it's a lot about when we talk about let's do something about it, is just stop the talking and do something about it, which is what I find I can talk better about by writing, spelling, and putting out with the importance of the imagination, which we don't seem to fully understand, except that we're now facing a well that's going dry here in this democracy.
Yeah.
And not meaning to go that far with it, but it's like that somebody's drawing the well out, but no one's putting the water in.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
I totally understand what you're saying. It's fascinating. You have a way about you, Tom. You've got something to say, and you obviously teach, right? You do some teaching or have you in your past to students,
I had a film
filmmakers?
school up here, teaching film school to young filmmakers up here.
Okay.
And I also moved that over to include returning vets coming back, PTS vets coming back from Iraq and excuse me again, Afghanistan.
Okay.
And I saw something about 22 guys committing suicide every day, and I thought, we have to do something. We have this storytelling is a very therapeutic thing to be able to write about your life, and whatever it may be, just if not for anybody else but yourself, something happens, some transition in your soul,
Yeah.
which never really changes, but you're giving your soul what it needs to have, which is understanding of or a pursuit, more likely than anything, is to understand. It's that, again, gets back to taking the risk of possibilities. If it's not going to kill you or maim you, what do you learn? What do you lose? You learn.
You learn something, right?
Just keep learning.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sam would have loved this conversation because
of
she's a poet. She writes all the time, or she'll just write diary stuff. She writes. My wife does it. She just gets it out. She writes more than me. When I'm sitting down to write a story, I'm thinking about like writing a performance piece. I want to see how this can translate to the screen. So, but and then it's really weird, Tom, because after we actually make a film that, let's say one I wrote, I don't see or feel what I'm writing until I actually see it on the screen. And then I'm like, holy shit, there was so much in that character that was me, and then, oh my God, look at that situation. That reminded me of when I was a kid back then. So I express myself through my silly nonfiction or fiction writing.
Right.
But all this me
with
is
nonfiction truth in it.
Yes, it's in there.
Realize,
it's in there, but I don't know about it when I'm writing it. You know what I mean? And then when I actually see it, it's just, it hits me in the face.
It's your feelings.
Yeah, man.
You can't put words to it. Like, there it goes.
It's weird.
There it goes. That's me. Wow, I didn't know I had that in me. That's a good feeling.
It is a great feeling.
I've had that for a long time. Different things I've done, and we have a company we started up here, and I've heard your question that you asked.
Yes, please. Yeah.
What's most important is that lady that just introduced you earlier, Julie.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, what a woman! What a woman! Anyway, there's something very extraordinary about her. But she runs our company. We started streaming on Stir app right now, and then now 4 other apps. And that whole new world of streaming, a lot of different platforms that need to have content. We've been able to find content up here in Seattle that has not. It's on the shelf.
Okay.
Stuff from Dale Chihuly's early days with Winking Glass. Great chefs. That one woman who goes out and forages out in the river forest, gets all the stuff they need for dinner, and makes this James Beard dinner by the fire, by the river, out of a campfire. It's just this extraordinary experience with stuff that you're talking about, where all this stuff comes from, what we can do. But we have to get movies because they are the most informative and influential of our media, up to the standards that we know they can be. Well-told stories that lift you up and make you feel good. I wonder. Mm-hmm. Those are really what's missing. And we are getting a hold of these films of fishing great rivers for fish, for trout fish, from Idaho to the Pacific Ocean, which won a regional Academy Award a few years ago. Stuff like this is just all around us that we feel comfortable with. And if you gotta be on a channel like Stir app, which has given us 2 to 5 million viewers, and with these new platforms, even double, triple in some cases, the audiences, we're giving them stuff that they can look at and say, I am moved by that to a better standard. I am moved by that to let's get together and do what we can do rather than waiting for the government to do for us, or lead us. That we have to lead ourselves in the end and take responsibility for all of the screw ups we do. Yeah. But do it quickly. Like if you have falling out over something with Julie, which occasionally, because she's so smart and I'm so on the other side.
You're so artistic.
That's such a nice way to say it.
I'm so artistic.
I'm stealing that.
It's kind of, well, it is the creative side. We're all creative, the 3 of us.
Correct.
Yes.
We scattered all over the place. Even the way we tell jokes. It depends on who you're talking to, right?
That's correct.
They can just talk to each other and they communicate. They can have 5 conversations going on at once and remember all of it, keep it going.
Mm-hmm.
We have a tough time getting past hello. That's it. You know, how's your day? How's your day going? She remembers a child from 5 years ago that she met once. Oh, hi. Gee, you're 7 years old. You look so, you're grown up.
Yeah, you got a little bigger.
And meanwhile, you're in her ear going, "Who's that?"
Yeah, well, there's that. Yeah, yeah, that's a good point.
That's what my wife. Everywhere we go, my wife. I'm like, "Hey, how you doing? Who the hell is that? Who is that?"
Yeah, all that stuff.
I know, man.
It's just embarrassing to admit you know, we're really beyond 40. We're really not necessary. We've usually had children and
No longer necessary.
We don't know what to do with ourselves.
We don't have any point anymore. We just hang in there.
We just get to be. Now we just get to do us.
Well, yeah. Yeah,
we did all the right things. Okay,
Yes, go ahead.
For myself, I worked multiple jobs all through my kids growing up. I did all these different things. I'm 46 years old now, and 3 years ago, I started a production company with that idiot.
Hi.
With the name CCC Entertainment Group, Creative Collaborative Coalition.
Yes.
With a tagline, which he thought was stupid, of "Join Together."
Yeah,
and that was the idea.
Well, you came up with it when Trump was around, so I was like, Jesus, this is not going to work.
But the point being was, from where we are and what we can do, and the fact that we can make our friends look like actors.
True.
We can get people to do what we want them. Well, not what we want them to do. That sounds horrible. But we can inspire people to do things.
Correct.
And that was the whole premise of what we were doing.
Right.
Which goes into everything that you're pushing now, and that we get to. I've seen these interviews with you now, Tom, as far as everything that you're pushing to trying to get people to see that film industry up here in the Northwest is important.
It doesn't. The industry does not exist here. It is one thing at a time, and that's my point. Is if you're going to have a film, any industry creates a product that goes out of the state, creates revenue that comes back.
Right.
We don't have that.
Yeah.
We have a Northwest. Northwest, North by Northwest. It's over in Spokane.
Mm-hmm.
That guy's been around doing commercials for 30 years. He's really good. A guy named Rich Cowan.
Okay.
He's doing stuff, but he's too busy doing that to understand that he's the only any in essence of a film, an industry at all. And we're pulling that all together with some of the stuff people we know here, who really agree that we have to pull this together collectively and have a business model that sees a script and says, you need to do some tending on that, some do rewrites, bring it back, we'll help you develop it further, and we make it an inexpensive film, because this is not a world of triple digits, or even, this is a world that's really down, this is a turnaround.
Yes.
And we're dealing with it on that way. The collection of films we have, we give the creatives ad-based 50% from the commercials.
Mm-hmm.
We have to build that over 2 years before it becomes profitable.
Right.
Sure.
But you got to take that kind of long-term risk and not think you're going to invest in tech company and make $1 zillion over the weekend.
Exactly.
It ain't going to happen.
Yeah, it's the long game. It's a long game.
We have to make the long game like you guys are doing.
Yeah.
And you're doing exactly what I'm doing, but you're doing it differently.
That's
Not that differently, but this is about communication.
I know.
Yeah.
So let's keep talking.
Yeah, it's wild though when you think about it, because we talked to a lot of different artists, not just filmmakers and actors, but we talked to musicians, people who create things with their hands, painters, writers. It doesn't matter. And I've always felt over this last year or so doing this show that there's a commonality that we all have. All creative people have it. It's kind of this thing that we all, doesn't matter what medium we're using, we all kind of feel and think the same way about this creative process, which is fascinating to me, but also I love that. And they're the best people to hang out with. They're the best people to talk to. They're the most fun. You never know what the fuck is going to be said. And it's a beautiful thing, and they've got a magic to them. And I don't want them to lose their magic in a world that doesn't seem to believe in it anymore.
I know.
But you can talk to, you finally get something out that makes sense. And sometimes I find that with my wife, I often don't make any sense at all.
Yeah, me neither.
I make sense. She just doesn't get it.
She's so beautiful and she's so wonderful. I don't know how to tell after 26 years how madly in love with her. You know? And that's a long and short of it. You know? And when you reach that point with the people you live with, you know, and to be proud to be her, that she accepts me in her life, and that she's an executive at 20 originally, when I met her.
Okay.
And to be what she's doing, running this company in the way she's doing, she just sits down, man, and you just stay out of the room.
Mm-hmm.
I'm busy, you know, and it's, you know, and us men will tend to pout and say, well, what about me?
God, man, how do you? We're all guys.
You and Tom Skerritt, man, you got a lot in common.
I know.
I know you're in the garage having some alone time, but are you okay out here? I just wanted to come out here and check on you. I haven't talked to you in 3 hours. Are you still alive?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You broke my train of thought. Get away from me.
See, we don't necessarily get things done, guys don't. They talk about it. We talk about it. We start on something, and something else takes us over there, and we go over that a little bit.
Yeah.
So you got all these shoelaces half done, and you know, and 10 pairs of shoes you can't wear any of them until you get one of them laced up properly.
That's a great analogy.
What are we going to choose?
You got to pick one and go for it, right?
Great. The only set I got is the red ones, and it doesn't go with my outfit. I'm screwed. Oh, wait, I'm a guy. I don't care.
And it's funny. And then you keep piling more on your plate because the ideas just keep flowing.
Right.
You can't help it. Yeah. They just keep flowing.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's such a beautiful thing. I love it. So let's talk about the Pacific Northwest real quick again, because that's an interesting model, because a huge base of our audience is from up here that listen to this show. So what needs to be done to like even start trying to keep money here for filmmaking here?
Well, we have an incentive which doesn't really work with reality outside of this. You know, it's they wonder why they would go up to Vancouver when Vancouver pays the producer $50,000 to bring people, and they open their arms and say, "Welcome, we love you. We have great lunches for you. We have great restaurants. You're welcome to use stuff. We have post-production stuff. We're here for you."
Yeah.
There's been that kind of little resistance up here that I noticed back in the 90s in particular. You signed a deal that you signed to do this place. I'm sorry, you can't change that. You know, if you want to move to another place, there was that kind of isolation that we made about ourselves up here, as though we had a profession when we really were a local, great crews that we had up here. When Hollywood would come up here to shoot, but you have to embrace these people and give them a little latitude, little room, and you wind up with wanting to go to Calgary or Montreal or Vancouver to find that in the filmmaking business. What do you need? We'll get it for you.
Right.
And those Canadians are so nice.
Quite come to that yet here, that we have to. But it's coming there. We have people who really want to be in the business, who really have to look for a business model, which is what we've created with Evergreen Channel, or particularly the name of the channel is, is Evergreen, EVRGRN.
GRN, okay.
And as I said, it's just all off the wall kind of great chefs, you know. And what you find out about these great chefs is it leads you to some guy who distills stuff in the forest over in Bainbridge and creates the #1 rye whiskey in the world, and a pizza joint 30 miles from him that's been there for 35 years and was recently, in the last few weeks, was judged as the #1 pizza in North America. So, you know, we got these collections of things we should be not talking about as much as going out and shooting with a video camera. Have them talk about the flour they use and all the ingredients. Oh yeah, man, that's storytelling.
Yeah.
Well, that goes with some of the things that we're doing too. I mean, one of the things that we decided to do as we tried to figure out what to do between feature films that we try and, you know, Aaron and I write and create, is we started getting into documentaries, and the whole idea was to do something with the Northwest.
Yep.
Sam jumped all over the idea, and she went with the giant Pacific octopus, which is the one that we're in the middle of post production of now.
I'm editing my ass off right now.
Yep.
It's almost
25 minutes in. I'm like, dude, remember?
Oh yeah, it's
now,
great.
Aaron is the 3-hour guy. He likes to tell stories. He likes to keep it going.
I got a time limit on this one. 80
Okay.
minutes or less. I'm staying in that sweet spot.
There you go.
There
But
you go.
what we're trying to do is we wanted to do Northwest stories. So, there's all these different little horror stories from all the haunted houses around here, and my brother-in-law Brad Holden wrote books about the Prohibition, and we've already talked about being able to do some of his stories off of his writings as well.
Up in Seattle,
So, up in Seattle. And so the same thing with what you're saying. All these little things that can be done, and it feeds right into that documentary wheelhouse.
Keep it here.
Get the local artists to tell the stories about what's happening here, and draw them to us.
Yeah. Absolutely, buddy. That's it.
Yeah, it's just settling in and just putting one foot in front of the other, but not. We're gonna be okay here in the Northwest. We just have to revitalize it and be more of a community to those areas that are around, including Vancouver and Portland and over there to even Idaho. And Montana. I think we're going to get some material from Montana. The stuff that's really horse guys breaking horses, going out and chasing cattle, or whatever they do. Interesting documentaries about people like this, about what everybody does.
Yeah,
because we all talk the same language here. We all think like we see an attractive lady, we do a double take. I can't help but notice the lovely ladies of women, when I see them walking, but I have no sexual urge. It's just their artwork. These women are just.
Wait, did you see
Beautiful.
how smooth? Did you see how smooth his double take was? It was just like
he did it good.
My double take's like, ow.
I know.
He's just all.
No, I get what you're saying though. I do understand that completely. Yeah. Wow. It's good stuff, man. There's some deep stuff. Man, Tom, I wasn't thinking we were going to go on all this deep stuff. What were you doing?
I always figure we're going to go deep.
I know.
I'm always stuck with what I got to say. What's going on in my head? What's going on in my head is all a collection of everything I've ever done or said or every experience I've had. And, I've worked with, as I said, I mentored prior to Ash. Altman was just a TV director who taught me all this stuff.
Yeah.
He showed me that stuff, how you looked at film and dailies, how you learn to cut. And then just after Masters came out, which is a whole other story itself.
Right.
Met a guy named Hal Ashby, who was an Academy Award-winning editor and turning to be a director, who Harold Maugham being there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So learning from these guys about the way they looked at the business of it and the way they had to ignore that and do what they did best. The 70s were probably one of the great eras, decades for sure, of some of the best filmmakers, and I happen to know a couple of them. For that, I just have to say I'm just a lucky guy, because I've learned so much. I want to apply it in what I'm talking about and what I'm writing about, because these were gifts, and as I said, Ridley Scott is a lot of gifts.
Yeah, you've definitely had a career, my friend, but you're paying it forward. I can tell. I've seen and read a lot about you up here in this area and the stuff you've been doing to help keep that dream going for people. And being that stable, creative person that people could admire and go, you know what, Tom Skerritt, he made it. He did that stuff. He was able to make a living, following his art and the creative bug he had. For whatever reason, he got bit back in the day. Why did you get into entertainment industry, by the way? I didn't ask you that question.
He couldn't play mute instrument.
Oh yeah, that's right. He couldn't play the violin.
He didn't have the fingers for the violin.
He's like shit.
Music and classical music as well. My brother would babysit when he had a babysit. He put things on that he wanted to listen to, so he wouldn't be bored. And he gave me this stuff.
Yeah.
Music, Stravinsky and Prokofiev and and big bands, Basie's band and all that sort of stuff. I didn't know what I was listening to. I do now. But I had the benefit of that. But as far as the others concerned, it's just I had to get out of Detroit.
Acting, that'll do it. I've acted like I liked Detroit for so long. Let's see if I can act.
It was just where I grew up, and I needed to have a change. I needed to look at a world that these classes gave me a sense that there was something outside of this area that I grew up in, whatever town it was. It could be all Cleveland for that matter, but it's just that you get used to a certain place. I got out of high school, went to service for 4 years. I had a GI Bill and wound up at UCLA as an English major. We saw Citizen Kane, wanted to write and direct to that level. But I felt that I was going to do any of that. I had to do it to feel it.
Yeah.
You can't be taught to act or write or act or direct. You just have to feel it. And fortunately, short of it is, I have a feeling for all of these things. I have a feeling for the music, at being with that undertone that films really don't pay much attention to, or that are just so overwhelming that, you gotta love the film. And that's really what Top Gun was as well. It was that music that went through that.
It was a music video. Yeah.
And Easy Rider was they couldn't get anything done with Easy Rider until they brought some guys in that they knew were big, very successful musicians. It was pre-recorded music, and it took off. Yeah. So music has a whole bunch. Rhythm has a whole lot to do with the imagination that you seek to embed some information.
He couldn't have said it any better. It's the rhythm. I feel that every time, especially as a filmmaker and editor. I have to have that music. I pick temp music like, okay, well, if I could really use this temp music, this is what I would keep in here, because this is some cool shit. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And you know it when you hear it. You don't know where you're going to apply it in your visual stuff, but that's something that Hal Ashby taught me. Okay. He always had music playing, some good local band, some good rock and roll, and all the time. And he's cutting, and I know you work with it, and it's subconscious stuff that you just do, and you watch somebody pick that up, but little movements like that, need to cut back 2 frames. Yeah. You just know how to do that.
You just know.
It misses the tempo. And that's what your audience feels subconsciously, is that rhythm that you get from all this well-crafted stuff that directors will finally come down to or not. Yeah. And it's not always the screenplay that you rely on. It's how it's translated by a director, and then how it's translated by an actor.
Yeah. And that's that coming off the page we always talk about, Chuck. I'm like, we wrote it, but how's it going to adapt on the screen? How is it going to...
How will it sound coming out of somebody's mouth?
How's it going to be performed in visual form? That's the trick. It sounds good on paper, but once it gets on the screen, you're like, God, that dialogue sucks. We got to rewrite that.
I have an answer for my questions,
Well, yeah, it's crazy, man. But the rhythm thing is weird, because you're right. That's not something I was taught. I didn't go to film school. I didn't go to any acting school or anything like that. I just watched movies my whole fucking life. I mean, that's what I've done, but I've loved it. And I'm able to watch movies and TV series or whatever just differently than, like, even Sam. She doesn't see what I see when I'm watching these things. And I'll watch them 2 or 3 different times and get a lot out of it. So I think I taught myself.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think I did.
Well, that's funny too. Like I do the same thing watching something. Is like, I'll sit there and I'll watch the scene and I'll be like I'll find, I look at the actor's eyes and I see where all the lighting locations are.
Yeah.
In comparison to where the crew is at.
And then we apply that stuff when we're on set trying to frame our shots. I know, it's weird.
Yeah.
Thomas,
I'd like to talk to you sometime apart from this, because of what we're doing. There may be some harmony in that. For example, you guys are doing stuff, and what you're doing, maybe if you can get distribution, you can with us, and it also gets exposure of several million people. As I say, this stuff grows. All this stuff grows. It's not something it's going to come right now. It's the seed that's been planted, and we're all waiting for it to come out. This is the new seed of the visual entertainment business.
I love
up
it.
here.
I love that. Well,
Yeah.
we want to know more about it. So as it continues, you got to let us know, Tom.
Yeah.
Yes, I'd love to keep in touch with you just to be able to see what your take is on what's going on around
Oh, I
town.
got your number too,
We'll,
Mister.
Oh, yeah.
we'll share what we have if you'll share what you have with us.
That's right.
As long as it doesn't cause itching or scratching.
Well, Tom, I don't want to keep you all night, but I could talk to you all night.
Sure, it's a pleasure, guys. I really enjoyed this.
I really did too.
Oh.
And I love this community that we live in. I didn't realize you guys were here until you told me, but because I love all the efforts that these young filmmakers are putting out. They just got to have a little responsibility to the people who give them the money to do that. I've seen that sort of decline over the years, and I don't like that. It's sort of like waiting for to go to a film in Omaha, at some film festival somewhere, so they can brag about being in a. It's just uncomfortable to see good filmmakers fall short of what they can do.
Yeah.
And that's the work. We got to do a job, man. You guys know that.
Yeah, we got it.
Well, here's another funny thing for you, Tom, for how close we all are. So, you are part of my life story from the 90s. Because you were a Seattle Sonics fan.
Yeah.
I miss this.
And I was the guy at the aisle who always walked up and down behind you when you were coming and going as you were leaving the Dome.
Oh.
So, yeah, you're part of my life story from back in the 90s, and now you're back in here again 30 years later. So, thank you.
It's a small
Tom,
world. We're all up here.
for being so close to me.
That's always creepy.
It's so fun. So fun.
Tom, before I let you go, just real quick, out of all the movies that you've done and made and been a part of, and I know you've got 100 or more. I don't know where you're at on the. He's got so much work he's done. Yeah, so much. What is one of the projects you're most proud of that you've been a part of?
Proud? Well, to be able to make I'm often asked my favorite film. To be able to do this is that's number one. To be able to have this experience that I had, number two, and to be able to say in the end that the ones that really moved me most emotionally,
yeah,
and at a level, I had to be River Runs Through It every time I look at that film, and I don't always see everything I do, but that one always haunted me. And it's like the rivers run through it, And,
yeah.
It's just what I experienced somehow now in my own life. The minister I played in there was my dad. Emotionally isolated person that existed for most of the male fathers in the 20th century, in early 20th century, and that he was not able ever to tell his sons that he loved them.
Yeah.
And I had a father that never could do that. And it's sort of like, well, you don't tell your son that. He's got to be tough.
I know what you mean. My dad didn't ever say it either, and I could never say it to him. But I say it to my boys all the time. I'm a pussy. I say it all the time to them. I'm like, I love you guys.
I do too. I can't stop saying that to my kids.
Yeah.
Julie and I have a 14-year-old now who's adopted child. And we have actually probably the real American family. Because we all came from somewhere else.
Yeah.
And my ancestors are Irish and Julie's third generation Japanese, and our daughter's African.
Mm-hmm.
And we just, I never think about it until we're talking about, the typical American family. We're
You're the typical.
Certainly in terms of representations of this, we live it every day. And we have our arguments that she's 14, she's going through this thing of, Dad, I can't be bothered talking to you. It's what Mark Twain once said. He said, when you turn 13, you don't want to be in the same room with your dad. He's so stupid.
Right.
But how surprised I was when I was 21 and he had learned so much. And I was, that's kind of what you got to get through with the teenage years. And you're going through that now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But cherish it.
I'm trying.
Cherish it. Cherish it. All you young fellas with all the teenage kids, cherish it. Because, my kids are all grown up and 25 and living back home with 3 children.
Sorry, Chuck. You'll be all right. Wow.
Which I just I apologize. My phone dinged. I didn't.
Oh, no,
my
you're
computer
fine.
dinged
You're
because
fine.
they're sitting in the driveway because the kids are going crazy. So she
Yeah.
took them for a car ride.
Okay.
So we could have some
we'll
quiet
get
time
your
for
family
Tom.
back.
Tom, we wanted to have some quiet time with you tonight.
Yeah. We'll respect them.
So the kids are all hiding in my daughter is got all the kids in the van. So
My wife wants me to go out and bowl.
And
Something, I don't know.
go out and bowl.
Because you're writing all the time. Get off to go outside, walk the dog, and just go somewhere with the guys. I said, I know what the guys are. They're not. They're busy.
Hey man, I'll come up to Lake Washington and go for a walk with you, Tom.
he's in the zone. Tom
right.
is in the zone. You're writing. You're in the zone. I've been in the zone for 2 days editing. I can't stop. I don't want to stop. It's weird. I get started, and when I know what I'm doing, and I found the story for our documentary. I found it and all the footage. I know what we need to tell now. I'm getting goosebumps right now thinking about it. You know what I mean?
More about this one. So you're giving me a lot of information we're going to have to follow up on.
Yes, sir. We will talk. We will definitely talk about it. You really. I'll pitch the shit out of this one, Tom. You wait. It's really good though.
Oh, you got it. You don't pitch it, because then you're starting to think too much about it.
Well, that's a good point.
Yeah.
You know what?
He just talks so much it sounds like a pitch.
Yeah, he's a mentor though. I listen to Tom Skerritt. You know why? Because that's fucking Viper I'm talking to right now.
That's right.
You're damn right. I listen
Hey,
to Viper. I'm not
any
like Tom
man
Cruise.
who can appreciate a good piece of ass like I can, I can appreciate it. Well, of course, that was just his character. Who knows? I mean, I'm guessing Tom likes a good piece of ass since he looks at women, does a double take every time they go by.
Fast though. He does it quick.
No, it's no smooth.
It's a double take quick.
Yeah.
Tom, it's been an absolute pleasure and honor having you on our show today.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, it's been my pleasure. Really, really a pleasure just talking about stuff we talk about if you were here in the house.
That's what I'm saying.
There's room right over there for us to sit next time. So we're not having this funny coloring that we get into.
Well,
It'd be better,
and
yeah.
you'd look like you'd probably be more comfortable in the other chair than as opposed to the computer chair. But
yeah,
at the same time,
Well, maybe we'll set that up one day because we'd love to sit down and pick your brain and tell you and everything else out there what we can do to help everybody out here in this area. That's what we would love to do.
Yeah, let's just pull it together. We have the talent here,
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
but you got to get it together and stop this kind of aggressive, hostile, aggressive, passive thing that happens too often.
Yeah.
And let's just, get our egos down and walk out in the same room and say, well, how can we help each other?
Yeah.
Instead of kind of a how can you help me thing,
Yeah.
which I don't respond to too well.
You shouldn't. No, it's not like that. It shouldn't be that way. Unfortunately, it is though.
Yeah.
Well, all right.
but no, that's the whole point of the show too. Is that this conversation that we've had is just like if we were sitting there on your couch or if you were here in our home. I mean, that's what we like to do here on the show is keep everything real
Around the reel.
around the real.
That's what we do.
Play on words on purpose.
That's right.
Just didn't have nobody pass out a beer.
I know, right? Well, I still had my little nippy.
And after the day I had one too.
Oh God, Julie didn't bring my wine up, so I all right, guys, really appreciate talking to you, and I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Tom. Appreciate it.
We'll talk another time.
Absolutely. my
Absolutely.
friend.
Thank you, brother.
Chuck, you want to close us out, man?
Tom, thank you for joining us tonight on Around the Reel with Tom Skerritt. It was wonderful getting to know you a little bit better, getting to know everything that you have been doing. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. Can't wait to read your memoirs, and I really want to find out what you have to say more about the deterioration of the imagination in American culture.
Yeah.
But
Me too.
you want to read it too, so you got to finish writing it so we can all read it.
That's right.
Tom, brother, thank you so much for joining us today. Take care. God bless.
And see y'all.
All right.
And
Bye-bye,
everybody
Tom.
remember, think hard, because you're thinking anyway.
See you guys later.
See ya.
I was made for loving you, baby. You were made
Are you
for
freaking
loving
kidding me? Not
Dude,
again.
change the station.
Let's kiss.
Please.
Let's kiss
No, but we don't know.
It's not Kiss, it's
Can
Aaron.
you
Yeah.
give it
Stop.
all to
Who
me
sings that again?
tonight?
Kiss?
Yeah.
Let's leave it that way.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks.
Well, I thought this was a show about being creative. I was just being creative on the
That's
mic.
not being
Yeah,
creative.
that's
That's just
no being annoying.
Well, maybe I'm trying too hard. Maybe it's a lot
yes.
simpler.
Aaron, remember, as all good broadcast people know, less is more.
So for radio, if I don't say anything, wouldn't that be kind of a buzzkill?
It would be a great
that
freaking show.
That would give the rest of us a chance to say something.
Oh my God.
Yeah, then we'd hear something other than you.
Well, I thought around the reel we were going to just have a good time and talk with people.
We
you
do,
know?
but it's not about you, as we have talked about in the past. It's about our wonderful guests. And our wonderful guests can tune in and become a member of our show. How, Sam?
Well, if you want to be a guest on our show, you can go to our website, cccentertainmentgroup.com, and click on the link for guest scheduling for Around the Reel and come be our guest.
Yeah, and then I don't get to talk about myself anymore.
You talk
Oh,
about yourself anyway.
Guest.
True.
Oh, guest.
Oh, now Chuck's singing. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Because he was made for loving me, baby. Wait,
Why-
that's
why-
not all.
why is
That's
it you?
Yeah, that's weird. I
No.
sang that one.
Yeah,
Oops, sorry.
he was made for loving you, Aaron.
Just remember to keep tuning
And I
in.
wasn't.
Because next week, who knows what's going to happen.
You never know.